to the podcast, and welcome to today's Halloween edition of the podcast, or at least today's Halloween episode. And I don't mean like Halloween like the series, I mean like this is going to be on Halloween. And as I said previous episode, I've never known what was I going to talk about. I came up with so many ideas, and even then last night, I still didn't have an idea. I didn't, but like the night before I recorded this, I had no idea. I had one idea, but I wasn't too sure yet. Next thing you know, I started watching the new show, Welcome to Derry on HBO Max. And man, for a pilot episode, it really makes me wonder how they're gonna go with this direction. Like if you've seen the show, you've seen the show, at least the first episode, and you can understand like how surprised I was. So I figure, you know what, I'll definitely do. I mean, I had this idea in the beginning, and I wasn't too sure. Now I think I'm going to do it. So for today's Halloween episode, I'm going to talk about it. And I don't mean like just the Andy Muschietti versions of the show. And I'm not going to do every episode of Welcome to Derry because we just only got the first episode. I believe the second episode is supposed to come out on Halloween, if not November 2nd. But either way, I'm going to talk about not just, again, the movies, the two movies with Bill Skarsgård. Definitely going to be talking about the 1990 miniseries. I know people kept calling it a movie. It's not a movie. It's a miniseries. They'll edit it together, and it's on HBO Max. The 1990 version with Tim Curry it makes it, edited together, makes it a 3.5 hour movie, which is longer than the second film. And I do think that, as a lot of people do think, the second film was Bill Skarsgård is way too long. So this is also going to be a two-parter. Like a lot of my podcast episodes, this one's going to be about the cultural impact of, it, like the first half, and then the second half, I'm going to do what I did with Avatar, which is basically do a comparison with the book, the miniseries, as well as with the duology film. But the cultural impact, so when I first, it took me a long time, I think till I was about 18. Yeah, maybe till I was about 18 to watch it for the very first time. And I've only seen parts of it. I've only seen parts of the original miniseries with Tim Curry. For the record, guys, and no surprise to anybody, though might be a surprise to folks, I actually met Tim Curry. My sister and I went to Texas Frightmare. It was my first ever Texas Frightmare convention. And the first person we both met was Tim Curry. I believe it was the first person we both met. It was actually pretty interesting. As we all know now, Tim Curry, he's wheelchair bound. He had a stroke, I think in the early 2000s or late 2000s. I don't remember. And it kept him so impaired. Like he hasn't spoken properly, I think, up until recently. He's been wheelchair bound. They say he can walk, but it's daunting on him. So that's why he stays in a wheelchair, and that's why he also doesn't talk too much. But despite all that, he still likes to do fan conventions, which, man, I give it to him. Doing fan conventions while being wheelchair bound and with less speech, I give it to him. I think he just doesn't do panels anymore. And I think the reason why he doesn't do panels anymore is because panels require a lot of talking. And, but I mean, the original, so I seen the covers, I seen some of the clips before I ever saw the entire series. But the Pennywise, before I even knew it was Pennywise, but the It, Tim Curry's Pennywise scared the shit out of me as a kid. And again, I haven't even seen the entire series or the miniseries. So I was scared to even watch it. I don't know, it just freaked me out. Because for the record, guys, I'm not afraid of clowns. I'm afraid of scary ass clowns. There's a difference. I know there is a clown phobia. It exists. I don't have it. I only have the phobia of scary ass clowns. Y'all remember back in 2016 when there was the clown sightings where people would put on scary masks of clowns, and they would just either stand there or they would chase you off. Sometimes I felt like there's an actual psychopath in that costume, in that clown costume. It was, man, I'm glad they don't do that anymore, but god dang, bro, and they gotta be specific on where they do this stuff, because if they do this stuff in the west side of San Antonio, they're gonna get run over because you're in Vato territory. You definitely you don't wanna mess with hooded Mexicans, man. The ghetto Mexicans, you don't want to mess with those. You don't really want to mess with most minorities too. But Yeah, I mean, I'm not afraid of clowns. I'm just afraid of scary clowns. And Pennywise was a scary clown. But despite all that, for years the Pennywise has had a cultural impact for a long time, and it still does. I mean, I think it wasn't a convention. So, and here in San Antonio, we have this big mall called the Wonderlands of America, and its big attractions are just having like mini cons. So, King of Horror, which I guess is the one that organizes the mini cons. I think it is King of Horror, but the organizers will make up a theme like almost every weekend, or at least some weekends, where it's like, hey, we have the Queen of Horror convention happening. Though it's not really a convention, it's more like a Queen of Horror event, and they get like some like actresses from horror films to be in the event. The reason why so they only get like maybe six people. It's not like a big convention where it's at a big venue where it's like you got these panels and stuff like that. Majority of these like little events are done by vendors that have like the Funko Pops, the t-shirts, posters, old time VHS tapes. I've seen those, video games. And they're always hosted at the Wonderlands of America. Sometimes I don't like going in the area because like if you live in San Antonio, you know about Balcony Heights and you know about Balcony Heights Police. Recently, they decided to do a 35th anniversary of it was called Welcome to Derry. The Welcome to Derry 35th anniversary, because it's been 35 years since the original 1990 miniseries came out. They got four out of the 7. I think it was 4 or 5. It might have been 5. Yeah. They got 5 out of the 7 like original kids, like the original Losers Club, to come back. Something I never brought up when I did my 27 Club episode, and I might have forgotten him, or maybe I did bring him up a little bit. I just don't remember. I have to look back at it, or at least listen to it again. Jonathan Brandeis, who played Bill, like the younger Bill in the original 1990, died at 27 years old. Back in like the early 2000s, he fortunately took his own life. And I was watching a little documentary on Amazon where they're talking about making it, and that documentary is actually pretty cool. You should go check it out. Emily Perkins, who played, I believe, the original Bev, Emily Perkins said like that shook the entire cast by storm. And the reason why it's just because he was young. He was 27. Some of the cast knew him. He's not the first of the cast to unfortunately pass away. I think around the same year. Yeah, I think it was the same year. Oh man, let me look him up. I forgot what his real name was, but he played the adult Ben, in It 1990. So, I mean, he was known for coming on Three's Company. So let's see. Yeah, I knew the name would sound familiar. It was John Ritter. I think John Ritter and Jonathan Brandeis both died the exact same year. I think John Ritter died of a heart attack. And it was sad because he had a show. Like he had a show going on. And I don't remember if it was like they were already in the first couple of episodes of the second season, or they just ended doing the first season. I just remember that Katie Seagal from Sons of Anarchy, Futurama, and Married with Children, her character made a tribute to John Ritter's character. I forgot what the show was called, and I don't feel like looking it up right now. But he's not the only one. I can also remember. So give me a second, y'all. Yeah, Harry Anderson, who played Richie, I think died not too long ago. I think it was 2018, 2019. Let's see, 2018. Yeah, so a year after the actual film came out. And it's always funny how like one of Seth Green's early stardom was that. Now I'm thinking about it, it may be 4 out of the 5 losers, because so I know the older Ben wasn't there, and I know Seth Green wasn't there at that little con. I didn't get a chance to go just because of money issues. And it's funny because like the events are free at the Wonderland of America. They don't charge you general admission or parking as a lot of conventions do. It's free because like it's nothing big. It's always like less than 10 celebrities. And they're just doing autographs and pictures all day. No panels. No Q&A sessions or whatever. It's just signing autographs, taking pictures, stuff like that. But yeah, As far as I can tell you, other than Seth Green, Emily Perkins also kind of has had a career. I'm trying to think. I think she did Ginger Snap. I've never seen the movie. So if you have, reach me out at my Instagram, Tough Love Pictures, where I keep the podcast on. Is she in Ginger Snap? I believe she is. She's also came out in Supernatural. Who does she play? She played like a very obsessed fan of Sam in Supernatural. Everybody else, I don't really see anything from them, unless it's like something small. Another actor who played young Ben, and in the 1990 came out in the sequel, the 2019 sequel of It. He didn't play the older Ben though. That would have been an interesting. That would have been an interesting casting. It would have been interesting casting if they casted like some of the young folks from the 1990 series, and they played the older versions of the Losers Club in the 2019 movie. Yeah, that would have been an interesting casting. But it still has a cultural impact today. Tons of people still portray the Tim Curry version of Pennywise. I think I like Tim Curry's version more than I like Bill Skarsgård, because Bill Skarsgård or Tim Curry, given the fact you have to remember that this was a show that was on ABC. So it's like Tim Curry had to be creepy, but not too creepy because this was television. But I think he had that right mix of like being a clown, like acting as the clown, as well as like being evil. You get what I mean? I know in that documentary, Tim Curry hated the spider ending. Everybody hated the spider ending. The director of the film, which we never actually mentioned in our 3 versus 1 episode, the director of Halloween 3 is the same director for the It miniseries, Tommy Lee Wallace. The television producers, Tommy Lee Wallace, Tim Curry, when they found out that it's, I guess, final form, or it's hard to explain that. I'll talk about it more in the second half. But like the final form they took on the Losers Club is well, you know, a giant spider, and that wasn't scary. Yeah, the spider just looked goofy, and like Tim Curry had the idea, and I think they should have done it, which is like have Pennywise's face like on the head of the spider. I mean, it would have looked goofy. Remember, like the effects in that film, you see, it's like very, very dated. You know, remember, it was made in 1989, came out in 1990. I mean, when I first saw the effects, I didn't pay attention. Second time around, I was like, oh gosh, like, dude, this is like, like you could tell this was made for television. But it's like the creepy thing that really freaked me out about Tim Curry's Pennywise was that scene where like the kids are looking through that photo album and they see like Pennywise like in the foreground of a picture or in the background of a picture coming forward and just popping out saying, "I'll kill you all." That line does come into effect a lot more in the second film, or at least in the remake, or in the film. It's hard to talk about because people are like, well, it isn't really a remake. It's a first film. You get what I mean? Like people call the It movies remakes when I don't think they're remakes. They're just they're just a different adaptation of the book. So it's the first film adaptation, while the series is a television adaptation. And then of course Annie Muschietti, now who directed the 2 films, the It and It Chapter 2, is doing the entire show, which I might not talk about like at all up until like right now, just because like I just finished watching it. And but the 2017 and the 2019 adaptations really made an impact on a lot of younger audiences because I mean the cast now, like the Losers Club cast now, have a bigger they have like a lot of like bigger projects. We all know Finn Wolfhard, who played Richie in the movies. He comes out in Stranger Things. He plays one nerd to another nerd. And it's always interesting to see him in that role, just because like when you watch him in Stranger Things, and then when you watch him like in it's so different. I mean like he's the most like popular out of the entire cast. Who else? Who is it? Not Jonathan Glazer. Let me see. Who else? I know Sophie Lillis, I think that's how you pronounce her name. I think she does stuff, but I haven't seen her in anything else. But Wyatt Olaf, who played Stanley, was acting before it. He played the younger Star-Lord in Guardians of the Galaxy. So yeah, Jack Dylan Grazer, who played Eddie in the movies, the younger Eddie. I mean, he did the Shazam movies, and I don't think I've seen him in anything else. Chosen Jacobs, who played Mike, I don't think I've ever seen him in anything else. And then who was it? Jaden Martell. I only heard of one thing from him, and that was The Lodge, and that's something that got spoiled for me. If you've ever seen The Lodge, you know like what it is. Oh, I forgot he came out Knives Out. But yeah, I don't see much from him. It's usually like Finn Wolfhard. That's about it. But the casting of the older versions, like I was too young to even know who the original older cast were for the 1990s series, because I know they were popular with television audiences because they used to be television. I know John Ritter was more popular for Three's Company. Annette O'Toole, she was I knew about Annette O'Toole, who played the older Beverly in the 1990 film, or the 1990 television series. I know Annette O'Toole from Smallville because I used to be a big fan of that show. She played Lana Lang in Superman 3, but I don't know what else she's done besides that. But everybody else, I mean, I never seen a lot of old TV shows from like 70s, 80s, 90s. I've never even seen Three's Company. I just know about the plot, which is an interesting plot. I mean, an interesting plot for a film that takes place in the 70s. If you've never heard of Three's Company, just look it up. But the for modern audiences now with the double film or the duology films, like I knew about Jessica Chastain, James McAvoy. Bill Hader was always like the one that's like, really, Bill Hader as Rich? It's like I saw it, but it was weird. It was a weird choice. But James Ransone, Andy Bean, I never heard of them. And then Isaiah Mustafa, like the face was familiar because he came out in some Old Spice commercials. But yeah, I've never seen him in anything else. The interesting thing about the 2017 and 2019 movies is that, like, you know, Bill Skarsgård is Pennywise. I do think he's a lot more better as Count Orlok than he is as Pennywise because he plays two separate kinds of evil. You know what I mean? Like, Pennywise is the clown, but most people, well, when they think of it, they think of Pennywise the clown. But a lot of people forget that Pennywise is a form it usually takes, which is why you're not going to see Pennywise until probably like the last episode of Welcome to Derry, because I know the Muschietis want to remind us that Pennywise is a form, and Pennywise isn't even what it's called. We don't know what it is. We just know it's a shape-shifting entity that feeds off the fears of people, and it takes on their forms. So there is that, but it's a lot more prominent in the movies than it is in the 1990 series, which I'll definitely talk about in the second half of the episode. But I mean, like, Pennywise looks like the Pennywise in the 2017, 2019 looks like an evil clown. But the reason why I say like the 1990 version I prefer more is because the Pennywise doesn't entirely look like an evil clown. Though I do feel like they should, I don't know, what they should have done was like make the clown look less evil, like a joking clown, and then it just somehow forms into an evil looking clown. That would have been interesting, actually. That's something I would have done. But if you ever want to like look at more of all this stuff, like the horror histories of, like, you know, the Losers Club or even the Bowers Gang or Pennywise itself, check out CZ's World's, I don't know him personally, but shout out to him. I forgot what his name is, but he does kind of look like Andy Muschietti, a younger, skinnier version of Andy Muschietti. But yeah, check out CZ's World's Horror History, where he dives deep into like the lores and stuff. But yeah, I remember when I saw the first film in theaters, the 2017 one with my mom. We were in D-Box seats. My first experience with D-Box. If y'all don't remember what D-Box is, it's seat that rattles with the movie. So yeah, just imagine watching that. And that was, again, my first D-Box experience. But I was curious how they were going to do with the second film, because some of the kids, I know like Sophia Lillis really wanted Jessica Chastain. And I know Finn Wolfhard really wanted Bill Hader, and everybody else just wanted different actors. Some, they weren't like set on the actors that they wanted, but you know, I think the casting was really interesting, especially James McAvoy as Bill. I always thought it was funny how like you just see James McAvoy like stuttering and all that. But yeah, and then yeah, I remember watching the 2019 sequel. It was really late. I don't think we got out till like 2 a.m. Oh man, I don't know why they had to make it 2 hours. Like they really tried to expand so much into the second film. I don't think they needed to or wait, well, it was not 2 hours, but like 3 hours, but still. They expanded way too much and I feel like they should have just condensed it to at least 2 hours because you don't need to extend too much of the plot into like nearly 3 hours, but I don't know. The one thing I do have issues on, the same thing I had issues with the first adaptation, was the effects, and something that it's still a problem with Andy Muschietti even when I saw The Flash. He uses too much CGI. Now I understand sometimes it's easier than trying to go practical, like having to see like Pennywise take the shape and stuff like that. I know that's difficult, but I mean, like, some editors are able to capture stuff like that, was just editing. But I mean, I'm not going to judge him too much on that. I just felt like he should have toned it down a little bit more. Especially with like the other forms of Pennywise, like the leper. I think the leper was CGI. It could be, no, the leper wasn't CGI. That one he should have stick with. The giant tall woman and the, the sequel that Beth sees. I mean, they could have done practical, but I don't know. Maybe I just like nitpick so much. But anyway, I think that's much of an impact as I can think of. It's not more of an impact. It's just more of like what I thought about them. But anyway, we're gonna take a break right now, and we'll definitely do some more. So I'll be back. All right, now we're going to do the comparisons of the everything. And this is probably going to be the long part. So bear with me, grab your coffee, your energy drinks, and happy Halloween, because this is what we're doing on Halloween, y'all. So let's just get this out of the way. Yes, the one thing that was alluded in both the 1990 miniseries and the original film, I wouldn't say original film, but at least in the 2017 film, was obviously the scene that involved the kids in the sewers after they took down Pennywise. Oh man, you guys know what I'm talking about. If y'all don't know what I'm talking about, Google it, because it's weird saying it, because like we're talking about kids that are like 11 and 12 years old. That should already give you some explanation, because like, okay, so Beth says like it's supposed to be like a symbol of like how much she loves these guys. That's way too much love to give at one point. But it also it goes back to another scene in the book that was alluded from both the miniseries as well as with the first movie. It involved Patrick Hockstetter and Henry Bowers, and trying to do something with Henry. Henry calls Rick, like Hockstetter, some slurs. And for the record, like, something that the miniseries has is that we know there's these two bullies that are with Henry in the miniseries, right? We already know one of them is Bill Chiggins. I think what happened was the writers or the television producers messed up, because I think the other bully is supposed to be Patrick Hockstetter, because I think that's what the actor said he auditioned for. But I think they accidentally labeled him as Victor Chris, I think that's who was the other bully. So he actually has two different names. We never know which. He says he's Patrick Hockstetter, so we'll go with that. Patrick Hockstetter was the first bully to die, though. Something that the film put in. And if we're saying like the other bully was Patrick Hockstetter and not Victor, then yes, he was also the first bully to die from Pennywise. But there was something that Beverly encountered with Henry and Patrick Hockstetter. Patrick Hockstetter is actually more demented than Henry is, because he enjoys seeing animals, like the normal serial killer thing, where they enjoy seeing animals suffer and die, and they also kill animals themselves before they eventually, move on to a different target. And basically he had no remorse of trying to take advantage of Henry, until Henry mentioned that, like, I think in the book his dad is a cop, as they put in the movie, the 2017 movie. So I think like that's something that I think Patrick was afraid of, because in the movie, in the 2017 movie, Patrick just gets killed by Pennywise because he was lost in the sewers. In the 1990 series, if that was Patrick Hockstetter, and I'm going to be saying that a lot, if that was Patrick, he was just attacked and we don't really see. We just see the light that attacks Patrick. In the book, Patrick is attacked by leeches, or it forms into flying leeches and attacks him, drains him dry, and then Pennywise just takes him. And Beverly witnesses all of this. The one thing that's different from both, and it's not a huge difference. So what the movies and the book get right is that it's every 27 years that it comes and feasts for about 1 to 3 years and then goes back to sleep for another 27 years. For the 1990 series, it's every 30 years, and that's mostly just to like have an even timeline. Because think about it, 5 and 10s are much of an easier timeline to or a much of an easier time frame to do than like doing like 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, like trying to do the every 27 years when it's easier just to go back 5 to 10 years, or at least like 5 to 0 years, if you get what I mean. So, and at least like the timeline of the 1990 series kind of fits with the original book, even though I think the book takes place between 58 and 59, because 58 was when Georgie was killed by Pennywise. It's the same thing. Georgie is out in the rain playing with the little paper sailboat, and he sees Pennywise in the sewers, and Pennywise lures him enough to where he bites off Georgie's arm, and Georgie bleeds out in the book and the 1990 series. And the movie was he just takes Georgie and he's never seen again. Only in like what is it, like premonitions or hallucinations coming from Pennywise, But in the what is it? The miniseries, it's more like a year later. So it's like instead of like the 58 to 59, it's 59 to 60. But in the first movie, it's from 88 to 89 because they wanted to make it more relatable with modern audiences. So yeah, they wanted to make it more relatable with modern audiences, which is why they shifted to the 80s because all the events was going to happen 27 years later to modern time. I mean, I guess that's why, because like the book takes place when they're adults. I think it takes place in like 84. No, 87. Hold on, give me a second. The math ain't mathing right now. 87 or 86? I'm trying to remember. So let's see. 30 years. If it's 85. It might be 57 to 58. I think it is 57 to 58. Give me a sec. I actually want to get this right for once. Hold on. Yeah, so it's 57 to 58. Okay, so yeah. The events of the book when they're kids takes place from 57 to 58. Then they changed that because like they need to keep everything kind of modernish a bit, so that's why they have it in the miniseries 59 to 60, as well as in the first movie 88 to 89. That way, like modern audiences can relate it a lot more. So back then, that's why they had it. The events of the film take place in 1990, and then of course in 2019 they had the events taking place in 2016. Man, that was a lot to talk about. The other big thing that's different from both from everything really, and I don't know if the miniseries is going to talk about it, but the one thing that's always been alluded from every adaptation, but kind of hinted at, was Martron. Martron, I think that's how you pronounce the name, is the turtle that it's been battling since the dawn of time. Martron is the creator of the universe. And it's not like how in biblical sense that the universe was created in 6 days, guys. 6 days. Not 7. So 6 days. Martron, and it's kind of like a Big Bang theory almost, where it barfed up the universe. That's a crude way of putting it. You also got to remember, Stephen King was high on cocaine when he did this book. So he said he also doesn't remember that one scene with Bev and all the other boys. But yeah. So Martron was like its rival. And it's been alluded, but he is more of like what helps the losers fight it. And I think he's trying to help. I think he helps every single person. Every time it comes back, he finds someone that's going to be like, I'll show you like how to stop it. Like, because in the book, when they first fought it, Bill was, I think he was caught in the deadlights. The deadlights are always something that's been used. They were spoken a lot more in the 1990s than it is in 2017. But the deadlights, Bill was caught in the deadlights. So not Bev as they put in the 2017 adaptation, but Bill. And he's in a mental battle between it and what is it? He's in a mental battle between him and it. During that, he sees the turtle, like he sees Martron, and he tells him like about the ritual of Chud. The ritual of Chud is something that was kind of put in I think in the book. There's a part in the book where like they built the the clubhouse, which is something that was added in the second film, the 2019 film, where like they did this Indian smoke ritual, something that we don't recommend. I don't even think modern native Indians would recommend either. But it was a smoke ritual where they're in an enclosed space with no air, and they inhale the smoke, and it's supposed to give them like visions and stuff. They all tried it. Everybody except Richie and Mike stayed, and they saw like how it was created. And in that, they discovered about the ritual Chud, which is something that was put into the 2019 adaptation, but it was just Mike, and it wasn't at the clubhouse. It was in a tent, and Mike was older versus they were younger in the book. Something that was alluded in the miniseries and as well as in the first adaptation, but we put it in there in the 2019 sequel. But the ritual Chud was in Muschietti's adaptation. It's like it was something that the natives made to hopefully go against Pennywise, but it was different. I guess because like how weird it is in the in like the 2019 how weird it was in the original novel, because in the original novel, and it's something about like I don't know how you describe it. Part of it is you gotta bite its metaphorical tongue. Like literally, you gotta bite its metaphorical tongue, and you gotta like know that like you don't believe in it. I think that's how it went down, which is something that they did not do in the 2019 sequel. What they ended up doing was saying like you gotta like burn a token of something that that brought them closer as friends, as a group, and then you gotta say turn light into dark, which did not work the slightest. No, it did not work. I mean, even in the adaptation, like Mike and Pennywise say like, oh no, the natives who tried this died years ago. And Mike said like, well, it's because they didn't believe. Obviously, another big thing in that adaptation versus everything else is that Mike's not really there in the book. And in the miniseries, Mike was attacked by Henry Bowers. I think he was stabbed in the side and had to be in the hospital for the rest of the story. But I don't know. I kind of wish they kind of kept that, but I guess to keep it with the story, they had to keep Mike in there. I understand it, but I don't know. I mean, maybe. I guess another big thing is Audra's not in the sequel. Well, she's in the sequel. For those that don't know, Audra is the wife of Bill when he's older. She's supposed to be British. I mean, they had a British actress play her in the 1990s series. Olivia, man, why am I forgetting their names all of a sudden? I know she passed away not too long ago. She passed away like, I think it was this year or it was probably last year. Hold on. Let's see, because give me a second, y'all. Olivia Hussey. No, okay, so she passed away December of last year, but it felt like this year. Olivia Hussey, for those that don't know, she played Juliet in an adaptation of Romeo and Juliet. She also came out as the final girl in the original Black Christmas. But yeah, she's more prominent in the series than she is in the remake. In the remake, she's only there for like the first 5 minutes of the movie. Or not the first 5 minutes, but she's only there like in the beginning of when we're reintroduced to Bill when he's older, and she's not even British in the movie. Anyway, she's not there in the show. I mean, she's not there in the movie. Should have been there because that's kind of like a driving force for Bill. I mean, another thing is that like so in both the miniseries and the sequel of the film, in the film sequel, I guess you could say, what was it? We're only introduced to Beverly's husband or boyfriend, depending on how you put it. And like when we are first reintroduced to Bev, like seeing how she is as an older woman, like married or married to a person that's literally just like how her father was, like very abusive. He does come back he goes to Derry. He follows Beverly to Derry because he wants to I think he wanted to like kill her, and I think everybody else. But Pennywise instead has him kidnap Audra. In the miniseries, Audra follows Bill. Well, she does follow Bill like in the book as well. But in the miniseries, once she reaches Derry, Pennywise captures her. In the book, Bev's husband, Tom, I think that's what his name was. Tom takes him to, I think, Pennywise's lair. And I think what they said was he dies of shock. Like, he dies of shock seeing its true form. While Audra is in a catatonic state. Which, I mean, I don't know. I feel like he should have I think his death should have been a lot more brutal. And I'm a weird person. Like, it should have been a lot more brutal than him just seeing Pennywise and just, I guess dying of shock or a heart attack or something. But yeah, another thing is in the remake of the show, in the sequel of the film. I don't know why I'm having trouble with words all of a sudden. I mean, I always had trouble with words, but in the sequel of the movie, it's been implied that Richie's gay. It's never been put into the miniseries or into the book, as far as I can think of. But I guess this is a minor one, but Eddie's death is different in the book than in the other adaptations, because in the book he gets the Georgie treatment. His arm gets bitten off and he just dies. He just dies. He just bleeds out. Versus like in the miniseries, he just gets crushed to death, and then in the movie he just gets stabbed through the he just gets stabbed through the chest, I think, from Pennywise. And the spider's a lot different in this version too, because it's like spider body, the back end of a spider, and then the front end, or the front, whatever. Pennywise in the front, spider in the back. Let's put it if you've seen the movie, you know what I mean. The Ritual Chud, I will say though, going back to it, it wasn't prominent in the 1990s series. Oh well. Anyway, so let's just, trying to think what else is there. I mean, the friends of Henry are the deaths are a lot different in the movie and the miniseries, because in the book it takes the form of Frankenstein's monster and beheads one of them and mutilates the other one, while in the miniseries it just attacks them with its true form, which is the deadlights. But then in the movie, you don't see the deaths of his friends, only in a deleted scene where it might have been implied that he killed them. Because Henry is supposed to be the fear of parts of the fear of Derry. It controls Derry. It stays in Derry. That's kind of why it has that cycle. Because if it continues to kill every year, it won't have that fear or whatever. So that's why it rests, I believe. But I know Henry's death is a lot different in the novel, because in the novel, when he dies, he attacks Eddie, and Eddie hits him over the head with a champagne bottle or something after attacking Mike too. And then in the 1990, he just dies from accidentally getting stabbed. I think it was by Ben. And then in the sequel to the movie, Richie hits him in the head with an axe. I guess, there's not a lot to talk about, because, I'm trying to think what else. Is there. Because everything else is pretty much the same. Maybe it's just how Pennywise kills people or the kids, because I know in the 1990 version, I think for obvious reasons, when it comes back, Pennywise attacks a little girl, and he attacks the little girl in the 1990 when it comes back, 30 years after the events before everything started. And then in the book, as well as in the adaptation sequel, it attacks a gay man named Adrian. Yeah, he attacks a young gay man named Adrian. Now people think does it attack kids? Does it only attack kids? It doesn't. I don't think it just attacks kids. I think in the beginning, it would attack anybody, because remember, everything's the same story, pretty much, where, if you know the story, you know that, Derry was just, a trapping town, something they've always mentioned in the adaptation, and then one day the settlers, or the founders, kind of like the Roanoke story, if you know about the Roanoke story. If you don't know the Roanoke story, settlers of a place in Virginia called Roanoke, all of a sudden disappeared. That was it. They just disappeared. Nobody knew where they are, and this is actually a true story. The only thing they ever saw was a sign that said Croatoa. And I think that's where the inspiration for what they did, because when the kids were uncovering all the stories about Derry and what it was from, they said some of the settlers and founders all of a sudden just disappeared with bloody clothes leading to the well house. And then the ironwork explosion, that was one. I'm trying to think, there was the black spot, which is something that the show is putting in, I could tell, because they have Dick Halloran. If y'all don't know, Dick Hallorann is a character from another Stephen King adaptation called The Shining. He's one of those people that can see things. So, and if you've never knew, Stephen King's adaptations all connect. So Dick Hallorann is, he's supposedly seen Pennywise, and he used The Shining to save people. If y'all don't know, Shining is like this mental power people have. And I know that's going to be a lot more included in the show because it's Dick Hallorann. I do know that like Stephen King's books, or Joe Hill's books, which is Stephen King's son. I know some might have a connection. There's not a lot known because like in the novel Dr. Sleep, he talks about Charles Manx. Charles Manx was a character in Joe Hill's Nosferatu. Yeah. Because, the backstories and all that, it's the same thing. It's just, they do a lot of differences. They have a lot of differences. I don't think there's anything else I can think of that. Well, I mean, like in the 1990s series, they excluded some of the other stuff that, both series really. Because like it first goes to Ben as a mummy. The mummy isn't shown until late in the movie. But at that point, the losers already know what Pennywise is. They kept the bloody thing for Bev. There was the Paul Bunyan statue that they put into the second film, but they didn't put in the 1990 series. It was a monster. It was a werewolf. Though the werewolf does come into the book, but not when Richie sees Pennywise for the first time. I don't think. But there is a werewolf in the book and the Paul Bunyan statue. And then what else? The Mike sees a giant bird in the book, which is excluded from both the 1990 and the 2019 sequel. The painted lady, that was something for the movie. And because Stan doesn't see the painted lady, he sees like two kids that were drowned in a watermill, which is something that was in the book. Because like in the 1990 series, Stanley doesn't encounter it until they started looking through that photo album. Eddie sees the leopard, which is something that was put in the 2017 adaptation, but in the 1990 he just sees Pennywise. Hiya, Eddie. I don't know why I said that, but there is a lot of differences, but I understand why they make differences between trying to redo another adaptation, another IP from something else, just because like they want to be different, creative, and maybe something that actually scares people. You get what I mean? Because like I said, Pennywise in the book, Pennywise isn't really like there all that much as he is in either adaptation. The clown rarely appears. It appears as what the kids are afraid of. You get what I mean? Like the Pennywise form, Bob Gray, sometimes what he's called, it's just a form that he takes. Sometimes it needs a form of something that it needs to eat. But because like it ends the same way, Spider, kind of. I guess so. It's nothing major, but like Bill is the only one that crushes the heart rather than everybody else. And a big storm destroys Derry. And at that moment, everybody forgets who each other were. They start forgetting each other. I mean, Ben and Beverly get together. Though, there was that love triangle between Ben, Bev, and Bill, all the B's put together. But everything else, Eddie's death, Audra coming back to her senses after Bill puts her on a bike and he's just like riding down the street. It's also been implied that like Pennywise probably never died, or he did die. Like, so something that all the other adaptations didn't put together or didn't add was that it's a female. Like, it's a female, and it lays eggs, and maybe those eggs were like its reincarnation, because in the book, Ben's destroying all the eggs, and then Bill asks, "Did you get them?" He's like, "I hope I did." Like, there was just so many of them. So basically, there could have been a possibility of an egg surviving, which I think something they showed in a preview for upcoming episodes of the show. I could be wrong, but I think that's what it looked like. So there's a chance that it died, but it's probably going to come back. Because I know there was like another Stephen King book that talked about like the clown show that came out in 1990. You know what I'm talking about. But either way, I love the 1990 series. I love the Muschietti adaptations, even though like the effects are, dating themselves. They're actually pretty interesting. I know some people said they wasn't scary, but I always say horror movies aren't meant to scare you. And I know that's weird to say, but they're meant to shock value, or they're meant for shock value is what I'm trying to say. Like I hate when people are like, that's not scary. Well, first of all, it wasn't trying to scare you. It was only trying to scare a specific amount of people. Like, you're not afraid of clowns. You get what I mean? So it was only trying to scare some folks that are afraid of clowns. And, adding the jump scares and all that. Sometimes I just have to say, like, stop saying, can you not watch a horror film and just expecting something to scare you? Watch a horror film for its craft and its creativity. It's just a better way of viewing it. Rather than like, oh, I want to get scared. And well, like, why do you want to get scared in the first place? That's like, I feel like people are watching horror films the wrong reason. Like, you're not meant to get scared of the movie. You're meant to get scared of the concept. Something that's like people are just ignoring. Like, I say, like, the Exorcist movie doesn't scare me. The concept does, because I do believe in evil forces and stuff like that. Child's Play, no, that just scares me entirely. But either way, I enjoy it. Tim Curry, he's not gonna live long. Like, you're anticipating that he's gonna go sometime soon, and it's sad, but I'm glad I had that experience to see him again. I mean, people know him from Rocky Horror Picture Show, The Wild Thornberrys, Home Alone 2, which is, we're approaching the Christmas time now. We're going to be watching that. Rocky Horror Picture Show and it are pretty much the top two Tim Curry performances people will remember. And Bill Skarsgård, I love him as Pennywise, but I do think his performance as Count Orlok is a lot better, even though I wasn't a huge fan of the Nosferatu remake. I think like his performance there is more terrifying than it is as Pennywise. I think because, like, again, they're two different forms of evil. One's just like likes to toy with his victims. The other one is he's just straight up evil, like the devil. But yeah, I mean, I try to make this exciting. Probably should have asked somebody to be with me on this episode, but you know what? I may do with what I got. So you guys have a great, first of all, happy Halloween. And even though I know some people are not going to be listening to this on Halloween, some people are just going to be listening to this before and after Halloween. But happy Halloween if you're listening to this on Halloween, which is going to get released on Halloween. And then have a great night, day, morning, whenever you're listening to this. Signing off.